Let's pick up on this conversation now, and it is one of our leading stories. Yesterday, President Cyril Ramaphosa kicking off a marathon of cabinet meetings. This is on a number of issues, including the country's electricity crisis. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan presenting a briefing on the capacity of Eskom and a progress report from the Technical Committee of the National Energy Crisis Committee. Let's discuss the problems at the power utility now, and we speak to the Eskom board chairperson, Professor Malegapuru. Makgoba, who talks to us from Pretoria this morning. Prof, good morning to you. Strong suggestions being made that change is coming on the Eskom board. Are you aware of any impending changes?
I'm not aware of any impending changes. I'm just aware that the board has not been complete for a long time, and we have made requests to that complementing of the board over the past 2 years, and I think we have been in touch with the minister, and that's as much as I am aware. About the changes, I'm not familiar with that, but let's also remember that the appointment of boards is the prerogative of the minister and the cabinet of the country.
Yeah.
And they have to construct the board according to what they think is needed as a complement to deal with the governance and the strategic issues of the organization.
We're going to deal with
yeah.
Sorry, Prof. Sorry to talk over you. All right. I was saying that we're going to come back on the issue of the incomplete board and how that has impacted on your work. But let's deal with how you view your own performance, how you assess your own performance as the board. I asked the minister about this on Tuesday, and his words were, quote unquote, that's work in progress. In your own words, assess your performance.
Well, I prefer to give you maybe a summary of a report that was done by an independent organization to evaluate the work of the board, this current board, in the last 2 financial years. That this board, I think despite its deficiencies, it has improved the governance at Eskom. So I am quite comfortable that as a board, we have discharged the responsibility and the mandate that we were given, and we have identified the gaps. Like, for example, as I say, the board is not complete. We are short by about 7 or 8 people with different skills that are necessary, and we have brought that to the attention of the minister. But just when I'm still on the board, Koli, I just want to make this point very clear. We have a board of about 8 people, and this board has got 5 subcommittees, and in total, the board meets 34 times in a year. The members of this board meet 34 times in a year. So we're not sitting and not doing our work. It may not be adequate, but we put a lot of effort in trying to steer the ship that is Eskom. Of course, in conjunction and in collaboration with the Exco.
Let's deal with the board, seeing that it is something that I think is uppermost in your mind, the incomplete nature of this board. How has that impacted on your work?
Well, I think the skills that are necessary in a board, which was, let me put it this way. When we started in the board about 3 years ago, the board had certain skills in it. It had chartered accountants, it had business people, and then it had corporate governance people like myself, transformation-related people like myself again. So it was a complete board, and it had engineering skills. I think we had about 3 or so engineers in the board, and then we have people, as I say, who specialize in governance. I think over when Jabu Mabuza was the chair and I was the lead independent non-executive director, the board was complete. But when he passed away, a number of people, I think, left the board, not necessarily voluntarily, but they were asked to leave for obvious reasons. And
what are those obvious reasons, Professor?
Well, it's part of governance, when board members don't behave or conduct themselves in a manner that is required for a board, they are asked to leave or they have to resign or something like that. And some of them found maybe better greener pasture somewhere and left. So it's a multiplicity of reasons, but they left, and not all for good reasons, shall I say.
Busisiwe Mavuso remains on this board, and I'm sure you knew that question was going to come. She has been the biggest critic of Eskom, and some people have applauded her for that, to say that she is speaking truth to power. Is she in danger of also being booted?
Let me correct you. She has not been a critic of Eskom. She's a member of the board of Eskom, so she has not criticized the Eskom. If I think we are talking about the same issues that exploded in the media, I think it was a confrontation with members of SCOPA about who may be responsible for the situation in which we are, and she said we should not be treated as the fall guy for what happened at Eskom.
And would you defend her stay at Eskom? Would you say that if, let's say, for interest's sake, the minister is not impressed with her, but you would advocate that she stays?
I have supported Busi fully all the time. I've spoken to her. It's all in writing. And the rest of the board supports her stand. I think she's a very helpful and constructive member of our board. And I don't see that what she is doing is contrary to what the constitution of our country allows us to do. So I fully support her. She knows that, and I think the rest of the board does that. But again, I want to emphasize, I am not the one who appoints the board of Eskom. It is the minister and the cabinet.
The prevailing criticism at the moment, Professor, is that that board, as it stands right now, it lacks the engineering expertise. Do you think that diminishes your understanding of the technical issues that plague the Eskom power plants at the moment, and therefore it completely clouds your picture of what needs to be done?
I disagree with that view, because I don't think people understand the role of a board. The role of a board is different from what happens at the operations. Eskom has got more than enough engineers at the plant to do what they do. However, they need a leadership and a strategic view that is often not in the discipline that I think people find themselves. If you look at the history of Eskom, who was the best chair of Eskom that ran Eskom? It was Ruel Khoza. Did Ruel Khoza have an engineering skill in him? He understood systems thinking and the complexity of transforming an organization. That's what we are dealing with. And I don't want to diminish the fact that engineering skills were there initially at the board. They are useful to be there, but they are not the silver bullet to solving the problem of Eskom at the level of the board. They are important at the level of the operations, and I can tell you that there is enough of those at that level that you don't need any further compliment.
Your biggest critics say that when you took over in 2018, Eskom's energy availability factor stood at just below 80%. Fast forward to 2022, that figure stands at 59%. Is that regression in your books or a complete failure?
No, it's not. is the reality of the system that we inherited at Eskom. We inherited an old aging car that requires repair and maintenance all the time, and in fact is high maintenance. It was inevitable that the energy available factor will deteriorate over time because the machines had been run at high rates, almost in the red, for a very long time, and they are beginning, to show the effects of that abuse that happened. So I'm not worried about that. I think what is important, Koli, is that the government, the board of Eskom, the executive of Eskom are all committed to solving this problem. Let me just illustrate to you. Early in April, the board of Eskom and the management of Eskom called experts in this field, that is energy and electricity, including people from America and from Africa and so forth, to discuss how we could tackle the issue of load shedding in the country. And the answer was very simple, that this is not an insoluble problem. It requires a crisis management approach, which is what I think the president ultimately has put the country into. It can be resolved within a period of 24 months, provided that everybody's hands are on deck. That was what we prepared. That became part of the conversation that fed into the ultimate plan of the president. And this was done by the board and the ExCo of Eskom. So we have been alert to the issue of the energy crisis, but more importantly, to the elimination of load shedding in the country.
Professor.
And I want to say, yeah.
Professor,
yes,
at the moment,
yes.
At the moment, the country is buckling under the pressure of the very load shedding that you are saying you have been seized with to, quote unquote, eliminate. At the moment, you are not winning this war. Talk to us about the technical abilities at Eskom. If you're saying that you have been dealing with this and you've invited all of these people, why are we where we are right now? Why are you on a drive to get 18 experts to be part of the Eskom system?
Okay, Koli, we have a project, a plan that has been approved and pronounced by the president. And a plan is not an event, it's a process. When you are involved in a project of the magnitude that we have because we are facing a crisis, you put all your talent into the system and you address that. You are not going to say, because on the 25th of July, the president made the announcement, by today, we should be having a different answer. We are at the moment unblocking all the impediments that used to happen at Eskom. In fact, over the past 2 days, I have signed documents that allow us to procure energy on an emergency basis. That has been approved by government. I have signed approvals to purchase energy across the borders. But that is my signature. After that, there has to be work that takes time. And I believe that the collective effort of having the crisis committee located in the president and all the effort that we are putting into will ultimately lead to the alleviation and the elimination of load shedding. The fact that we are where we are, I think, makes us to double up and even do more than we have been doing before.
Let me put it to you this way, and I wonder whether you did listen to him yesterday. Former President Mbeki says the problem at Eskom, and I suppose countrywide, is the lack of leadership. Do you believe that at Eskom you have provided that leadership?
Koli, I have led many organizations in my career, and they have all been successful. I've led them here in South Africa. I have led them internationally, multinationally. So I have to go into that because that's part of my life. I believe that the systems and the identifications of the issues that are necessary at Eskom, that Andre de Ruyter, myself, and the board have come up to, are the ultimate answer that is going to resolve the issue of the load shedding at Eskom and stabilizing the energy field in our country. That will happen. It will take time. It is not going to be solved overnight.
If you were to put a time to it, I'm glad you mentioned the issue of time. If you were to put a time frame to seeing the back of load shedding?
Just to show you, I'm not an expert on this matter. I sought the opinions of experts before. Mm-hmm. They said it can be done in 2 years. They didn't say it will be done in 2 years. They say what they have seen and what they have analyzed and what they followed can be resolved in 2 years. And I think the whole plan of the president, as has been announced, is predicated on the idea that let's work as flat out as hard as we can so that within 2 years we can step back and look back and say, what have we achieved? This is not it's not an insoluble problem, colleague. It should be solved. And the plan that Eskom and the presidency have put together is the ideal way. And I think we need just to be a little bit more patient and understand that it is not an event, but a progressive, I think, increment in the elimination of load shedding. It will happen.
I have two critical questions, Professor. I need to squeeze in before we're completely out of time. You are a medical professional by discipline. Andre de Ruyter is a lawyer by trade. Do you think, given the prevailing sentiment right now, that Eskom needs engineering expertise, do you think that you're ready to throw in the towel, the two of you?
No, not me. As far as I know, Andre is not. Let me also correct you, Kolani. Andre may be a lawyer. Andre was a very senior executive at the Sasol, which is one of the largest energy company in our country. So he understands the wherewithal of dealing with the energy field. You know, I am a medical doctor, but as I say, I've been involved in many multinational complex issues that don't necessarily involve medicine as such, but involve systems thinking and being able to lead successful organizations. And I've done that. I've got a track record of that, yeah.
All right. Let me throw in this final one, and it is devoid of Eskom issues. The former President Mbeki, once again, has gone back to defend that a syndrome cannot cause a virus. You are a medical expert. Do you agree with his sentiments? Do you think that the former president should let this one rest now?
I think when you are a president of a country or when you are a vice chancellor of the university, it doesn't give you the authority to know everything. Sometimes it's best to defer to people who understand. There are many viruses that cause syndrome that have been documented in medicine. So perhaps he should go and read a little bit of medicine than just make pronouncements that are completely false.
Professor Malegapuru Makgoba, thank you very much for your time. Eskom Board Chairperson.